anxious, nervous, like that feeling of losing your kid at a department store, or not being able to find something that you know you put away or just had in your possession. That state of panic, feeling an unstable, foggy feeling all the time. That was my state of mind for the last 2 years, due to a series of events that took place in my life. I always had the feeling that something wasn't quite right with my kids. There were a series of life events that happened throughout the years that always left me in doubt, wondering if there was more to those little events that kept happening more frequently as the kids grew older. I was always very persistent and frequently asked both of my kids questions such as, has anyone ever touched you in your little private parts? Has anyone ever made you feel uncomfortable regarding your body? I would always tell my kids from a very young age, no one is to touch your private body parts. No one at all. Not mommy, not daddy, not cousins, no one. I thought we had great open communication with my kids. I crossed all my T's and dotted all my I's. I felt I was a very good, proactive mother. I had trust in my family. I never left my kids with strangers. For babysitters, it was just grandma's house. For the last couple of years, I continued to ask the same questions. Something inside of me felt like I had not received an honest answer. Year after year, I randomly asked. My intuition kept telling me, keep asking. Something is not right here. Just keep asking and don't stop. On Valentine's Day, 2016, my daughter was 10 years old. And that night, I was lying in bed with my husband watching TV. And it was late, around 11 p.m., and my kids were asleep. I suddenly got this awful feeling in my stomach, like someone had punched me in the gut really hard, like my soul was bleeding inside slowly. I felt like my heart was beating fast and loud, and I felt I couldn't breathe. I got up and went straight to my kids' bedroom. They were asleep. I woke my son up and asked him the same questions I have asked for years. I said, Papa, Mommy had a dream and has a weird feeling. Anything you want to tell Mommy? Anything at all, Papa? Mommy knows you have something to tell her. It's okay to tell Mom anything that is worrying you. He said, Oh, Mom, come on, not now. I'm sleeping. Nothing has ever happened to me, Mom, nothing. He was upset when suddenly my daughter says, Mom, I can't take you asking anymore. I just didn't want to tell you because I don't want to hurt you, Mommy. And then she proceeded to tell me how she had been sexually abused by her older male cousin from the age of 6 to 8 years old while she was being taken care of at grandma's house, a quote-unquote safe place. She said, Mom, you gave me the book about my body. I have been reading it, and I know what happened to me was wrong, and I am ready to tell you. She described her trauma in detail. She was so little that all she could tell me is it happened during spring, summer, and winter. She had connected Mother Nature to her trauma. Keep in mind, she was now 10 and had been so resilient and strong for years, holding her weight every day. I was extremely devastated for my daughter. I couldn't understand how something like that could have happened or why it happened. I was numb, shocked, and ashamed, and really afraid. I felt helpless, and I didn't know how I was going to help my daughter. The next 2 years, 2016 and 2017, by far have been the worst years of my life. I hated every inch of myself. I felt like a failed mother, a beyond shitty mother. I was depressed. I felt extremely lonely, suffered many panic attacks these 2 years. I felt like I had an out-of-body experience. I felt like I had no soul. I was angry all the time, resentful. I felt rage and hate towards my life, basically towards everything around me. I shut down completely. I isolated myself. I felt like my mind was one part of me and my physical self, my body, was another part of me, and I couldn't connect them. It was a total disconnection with myself, a very dark 2 years of my life. I constantly felt a tingling feeling in the middle of my forehead, and I felt hyper-focused. I functioned, if you can call it that. I felt like I was floating with a feeling of wanting to explode. It was the weirdest feeling ever, and the mom guilt was so real. I would wake up crying, go to work and cry, go to sleep, cry. 2 years of straight hell. I did what I had to do, pressed charges, and took on what felt at the moment as the entire world caving down on me. I became unapologetic. I stopped caring what people thought of me. I began to walk by faith and not by sight. I grabbed the bull by its horns, my inner strength, and I sought justice for my baby girl. I got the entire family in therapy, and I began my healing process, mental and physical, because I knew that there was no way in hell I could help my daughter succeed with her trauma if I didn't learn the tools and got myself together first. I felt woke for the very first time in my life, like shit was really real. And suddenly, the small cares of the world did not matter. I was just focused on my family of 4, and nothing else mattered. That is where your podcast came into my life. At this point, everything started to make sense. I realized, as women, we have the gift of intuition and strength. That feeling that you can conquer anything that life throws at you. That shit will happen in life, and you cannot let it define who you are. Because I knew I was a great mother, and that incident was out of my control. And at this time, I did what I thought was best. And I know that the guilt would linger forever. But I learned to be kind to myself. And I am learning to forgive myself for my mistakes. I am learning to love myself again. I am learning to embrace my lesson and embrace the gifts that lesson brought our family, which is strength and faith. Both my daughter and I have become fearless, and honestly, you cannot heal the heart and mind if the spirit is broken. In life, we do not get to choose what destroys or severely damages us, what changes us. We do not have a choice to pick what that trauma will be or the timing. Shit just happens in life. But we do get to choose the outcome of things and how we react and grow from that life experience. We can choose to grow from the experience, or we can choose to be a victim of that experience. In my case, I chose to grow and become wiser and stronger. My soul has definitely flourished in many levels. And looking back, I feel that I was gifted the ability to understand without having instructions in front of me, to go with my flow, to believe in the power of myself, and to know that I was going to be okay. And so was my little girl. And that I'm not alone, and that I cannot control everything around me. I want to take the time to thank you for creating such a safe space for me. A space where I can drift off and connect with my inner self, my soul, where I don't feel judged or weird for believing that we can tap into our bodies, our wombs, and connect with ourselves and feel our energies flow, both physical, spiritual, and mental. I have learned to visualize, feel, and understand, and go with the flow because of you. I believe in the power of spiritual guidance, and I have actually begun my healing process because of the content on your podcast. I trust who I am now. Thank you for navigating me through this journey, Luz Warrior. Light, Luz, the natural agent that stimulates sight and makes things visible. The light of the sun and the moon brightness shining, gleaming, radiance, luster of glow. Thank you, Linda, for giving me the source of illumination once again. XOXO. Anonymous. I want to give my gratitude to our anonymous mommy and hold space for her. I want just simply to say thank you for sharing this story. It's very rare to hear the mother's perspective when their child has been abused. Thank you for being so strong and courageous in letting us know your process and how you made this discovery, and that deep down inside you really always knew. I do want to encourage anyone listening that if you have some inkling that something isn't right, then perhaps use this mother's story as a resource of strength and inspiration to continue asking. I made so many discoveries in your story, and one of the first discoveries that I made is that we really never know where and how this can happen. This past month, when I went inward, one of the biggest lessons that kept coming up for me is that everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. And the reason I know that is because that is the way it happened. And I feel so much peace when I hear you say that you pulled away from making yourself a victim. You're teaching your daughter the same thing, that she is not a victim and that she does not have to carry this and relive this day and day as she moves forward. That perhaps this did happen for a reason and there was no mistake. And her journey and her purpose in life is to carry experiences that will make her a much more powerful young woman one day. I know sometimes it's really hard to look at the light, but I do have to say, from someone that experienced a similar experience to another, that the strength and the courage and the fearlessness to move forward in life with purpose is so empowering when you have been able to overcome such a traumatic experience that no longer serves us, that no longer deserves to be attached to us, that is a story that is simply from the past and we no longer give it power in the future, unless it is to feel empathy or to draw from a place of strength, but it does not leave us powerless. In fact, it feeds us power. Thank you to your daughter. We're grateful that she allowed for you to share her story. I'm going to take a short break, and when we come back, I'm going to give some updates. I am going to be running healings for the month of June. We are going to run our coaching through a beta program, so the coaching will not be available until a few months from now, but I will be holding healing sessions. If you're interested in getting a long distance energy healing, mark your calendars for June 1st, Friday, June 1st at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We will have our healing services up for purchase on the Let There Be Lose website. That's www.lettherebelose.com. Under services, you will find the healing sessions for the month of June. Please take note that there are only limited spaces for the healing sessions because I do these healing sessions during my enchantress phase, and there is only a certain amount of women that I can fit in during my enchantress phase. So head over to the website. There's more details on what goes into the healings there under services. Mark your calendars for June 1st at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for these services to go live. And actually, I would like to extend an offer to our mommy that wrote in for Letters to Lose and offer her daughter a healing session. Let me know if your daughter would be interested, and I will gladly reserve a spot for her as a gift. For those that have signed up for Letters to Lose, we will be getting back to everyone as soon as possible. Please note that we've received such an incredible amount of people wanting to submit letters. Thank you so much. I do want to give a disclaimer in that not everyone that has signed up will have their letter read. But we are going to produce this series a lot more frequently. It's a space that I definitely want to continue to open in order to be inspired by incredible stories that so many of us can resonate with. So stay tuned for more episodes of Letters to Lose. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you haven't gone on to iTunes and given us a rating or a review, we would greatly appreciate it if you do that. Please make sure to follow us on Instagram at Let There Be Lose, and we'll see you next week. May your light within get stronger.
Return to the one.